how do you become a professional footballer? Like, how do you break into the first team? Now, I got asked this question the other day, and they said to me, what advice would you give to your younger self back in your West Ham days on how would you break into the first team? Now, there's a load of young players that's watching this right now who is now taking on the challenge of becoming a first team player. That's your goal. That's your challenge. And for me, there's a certain foundation, a certain core of how you can go about it to be able to get in there. Now, this show was set up to be able to give you guys the gems and give you guys the knowledge that I never had. The things that they won't say to you, the things that they keep from you. And by they, I mean clubs, I mean coaches, and even some of the older generational players not giving this information. So for me, it's my time to give it to you.
They picking sides, they crossing the line. I stick to the truth, I'm one of a kind. Gave it to God and follow his signs. Now all of a sudden I'm stuck in my prime. I'm wishing them well, I threw them a dime. They stuck in the shell, they drowning with time. You see the game, we still undefined. If they coming at us, they better rewind.
Before I get into like any of the main tips, the first thing that I need a lot of young players to kind of pay attention to and really understand this really, really quickly is you are no longer an academy player no more. You have to make that mental shift into thinking and maneuvering like a first team player. So with that being said, the first bit of advice that I will give is become a pro before you are one. Now, by that, I mean this. And the first part of this advice and this tip that I'm going to break down is think like a first team player. How do first team players think? Now, you got to remember, you have to believe it before it happens. Like, people think that football is played with your feet. Your feet are just the tools. But how football is played is up here. It's a mental game. And when we start grasping that it's a mental game, we need to start playing on the frequency and having a mindset of a first team player. So when you look at the first team setup and you look at how a first team player thinks, it's all about how they approach the game. Now, I remember going back, I remember watching Xavi, Iniesta. This was like when I first signed my first scholarship. This is the first season and I was a first year scholar. And I remember in that season, there was a coach called Paul Heffer. And we used to sit down and we used to watch Xavi and we used to watch Iniesta. And he used to sit there and he used to break down their game with me. That was me getting on the mindset and the frequency of how a first team player thinks. Because when it comes to football, when it comes to playing football, it's in the details. It's the details of how you outsmart people. This is why I keep saying football is played with the feet, but it's majority of the time played with your mind. It's played with what is up here. So like I said to you, my first advice is to think like a pro. Think like a footballer. How do footballers think? The second one is behave like a pro. You need to start maneuvering and behaving like a pro. And by that, I mean, how do pros move? So first of all, routines. Have they got a routine set in place? Of course they do. Have they got diet set in place? What are they doing in terms of like recovery? Are they doing ice baths? How do they approach training? All these little things that you guys can start implementing in your game of starting to be on that mindset and be on that frequency of how a first team player maneuvers. I don't think people actually understand how important that part is. Because remember, football's played up here, not with your feet. I've said it 3 times for a reason, repetition. And that's what training's all about. You need to start training like a first team player. Training's all about building the repetition of muscles, building the repetition of your mind. And it all starts for me, or how you break into a first team, or how you become a professional footballer, is that it all starts in your mind. And it's all about, do you think like a professional footballer? You need to start getting in and around people who have the same ambitions as you. You know what they say, you are who you surround yourself with. So you need to start surrounding yourself with winners. Start surrounding yourself with people who understand what it takes. Listening to people who understand what it takes. Tuning into to this show, The Balls House, where I'm giving the gems. Get when you're in the training ground. And I remember being an under 18 player, and obviously we used to go to Chadwell Heath. So we once trained at Little Heath. We then moved to Chadwell Heath, and then that's where we had lunch. And we was in and around the first team players. When they were having lunch, we were having lunch. So what's stopping you from being able to now walk up to them and say, "Excuse me, I'm so sorry, I don't mean to bother you, but as a young player, I'm really interested in understanding how a first team player maneuvers. Like, what would you say is the thing that can take me to that next level?" Get on the mindset and the frequency of a first team player. That's the first gem I'm going to give. That's the first advice that you guys need to take. All them young professional players out there who are trying to make it in the game. Understand, become a pro mentally before you are one. What do you do off the pitch? What do first team players do? Are you allowing distractions to get in front of you? Or are you going to do what first team players do and you got a game the next day so you can't be able to go out with certain friends or do certain things? Are you recovering like a first team player would? Are you eating like a first team player would? Are you training as if a first team player would train? All these things get on the frequency and the mind wave of a first team player. The second gem and a second bit of advice. So the first one is, like I said, become a pro before you are one. The second gem that I'm going to give, and this is one that everybody needs to pay attention to, and it don't matter even if you're under 18s, reserves, first team, sitting on the bench, or if you're still under 12s, no matter where you are in your ladder of a career and becoming a footballer. But right now I'm specifically speaking to those who are on the brink, the ones who are taking on that challenge this season, is stay ready at all times. Stay ready. You need to understand that when it comes to becoming a footballer, it's spontaneous moments. It's opportunities that don't come around often. When a first team manager comes to watch you when you're playing, all these things you need to stay ready at all times. Now, just to really bring that together, like I said in my last video, I'm going to start adding some clips for you guys to actually see and understand and how important it is to stay ready. And Ben Chilwell done a video with Chelsea, and he sat down and he kind of gave a gem of his own, which is where part of this gem came from. So I'm going to play it quickly, and then I'm going to react to it after this.
You don't work hard, diet, sleep, extra training sessions when you're just at home, then people will catch up and overtake you. The fact that he was honest with me, it was an eye-opener that made me realise that I'm going to have to completely change my attitude. And then came back that season, was fitter, technically better, stronger than a lot of the other players. Natural talent does only get you so far.
One of the key takeaways from that video that you can take is natural talent can only take you so far. I'm going to say it one more time. Natural talent can only take you so far. So understand to stay ready at all times. As you just saw, his coach said to him, listen, if you do not do the extras off the pitch, if you do not stay ready, if you do not stay ready, people will pass you. So like I said, man, stay ready. Take Marcus Rashford, for example, with his debut, he had to be ready. He had to make sure that when he got on that pitch, he took the opportunity that he was presented with. Like I said, these opportunities, they don't come around often. So make sure that you stay ready. Now, I saved this gem for last because this is one that I wish I understood completely. And I'm sure this is another one that loads of players who haven't made it, or some players who have made it but not gone as far, I really think that they wish they would have understood this one completely, which is to understand the situation you are in. Now, before I get deep into a personal story of mine, I'm going to play this video from Jadon Sancho, and I think this kind of sums up what I mean by understand your situation. And I think we all know the Jadon Sancho story of being a part of Manchester City and then obviously, going to Dortmund and being able to blossom and have a career there. Now, a lot of people go, oh yeah, go abroad and this and that. But I want people to kind of really understand what I mean by understand your situation. So let me play this video and then let's get into it straight after that.
I felt like I was ready to play first team football, and I felt Dortmund was the right club for me to come to. And look now, I'm here, I'm doing well, so I'm just grateful and blessed. It's crazy how things can just change just like that. It's very surreal right now. I'm just taking it day by day, especially with all these interviews and, all the press that's, coming to our training grounds, just looking at us.
Now, the Jadon Sancho story is one of those stories that was the foundation to launch some of the next players that we see and some of the next gen players that we see now to be able to go off and create a career out of a situation. And this is what I mean by understand your situation. So many players get caught up in the system of football. A lot of players get caught up into coaches and certain authority figures within their club to make decisions on their career. Now, I've said this in some of my previous videos, and like I said to you before, football is a business. But not just football is a business, you are a business as a footballer. And you need to start making decisions for your life, for your career, and stop putting your decisions in so many people's hands. Now, obviously, your career is in people's hands to a certain degree, but a lot of it is also in yours. Now, I remember going back to being 16 and being given a chance somewhere else to be able to get a first team opportunity. And this is actually a crazy story because I literally only got told this, it's funny enough, about a few weeks ago or a month ago, by somebody who was very close to me at that time. They kind of kept it away from me because, let's be honest, like at that time, some people just don't understand the business of football. They don't understand to maneuver within that. And I missed out on an opportunity to potentially, at 16, 17, to be able to go on loan somewhere at a first team club, to be able to be a part of a first team setup, to be able to get an opportunity where I could have become a professional footballer. But because I didn't understand my situation and I didn't look and go, okay, cool, is there a clear pathway for me to become a footballer here? Is the manager open to playing young players? Are there players in front of me? How many players are in front of me? In my position in the first team, who have I got to get past? Because like I keep saying to a lot of people, and I gave this advice to somebody before, is that there's somebody in front of you, there's somebody behind you, and there's somebody beside you, but there's also somebody that isn't even born yet, ready to take your position. So understand your situation and learn to make decisions and calls for yourself. Certain players that I've played with that I've seen that never made it as a scholar at West Ham United went off and now have a professional career and is playing in the Premier League right now. I'm not going to name no names, but they're playing in the Premier League right now, all because, a decision to go somewhere else. Let's take Xavi Simons, for example. We've all known the young baller to be playing for Barcelona, then went from Barcelona to PSG, had a sniff at first team, played a couple games, but he just couldn't see him becoming a first team player there. And now he's at PSV, where he's now going to probably end up being played week in, week out. He's made a decision on his career. He's made a decision on his career. There are so many players in the system right now that stay at clubs too long and end up getting caught in the system, end up getting caught and then being able to now make a decision and say, oh, I need to leave because now I need first team football. But by then it's too late. Understand the situation that you are in. Because like I said to you, for me, the business side of football is so covered. Not many people get to listen and understand or even know the knowledge of how that works. So let's take Jadon Sancho's story. Make sure you listen to it. Now, I'm not saying that everybody now needs to go abroad. What I'm saying is if there is not a clear pathway, if you can see around you that things are looking like it may not happen, train harder. That's the first thing you should go to. But you need to understand and trust your ability. And I said this in the previous video before. Understand your value. Understand the value you bring. Understand your talents. Understand your skill set. Because if Jadon Sancho didn't understand his level, his talent, and his skill set, we would not have a Jadon Sancho today. And I'm sure if a lot of players had his mindset, we would have a lot of players in this day and age playing first team football.
They picking sides, they crossing the line. I stick to the truth, I'm one of a kind. Gave it a God and follow his signs. Now all of a sudden I'm stuck in my prime. I'm wishing them well, I threw them a dime. They stuck in the shell, they drowning with time. You see the game, we still undefined. If they coming at us, they better